I'm turning it on.
Okay.
We're now live.
We're now live.
We're now live. Welcome to the Jenn Northington interviews about China Miéville, part 3.
That's right.
Jen, what is our book this year?
Embassytown.
Embassytown. And wait, let me guess, it's your favorite China Miéville book ever?
You mock me, but I insist that it's not just that I love the new thing. I think he's really genuinely getting better and better at his craft. Well, like every good writer should.
You know, it'd be hard to argue that with him coming to your store next week. And
yeah.
where are you working now?
At Word in Brooklyn.
And what do you do for them?
I am their events manager. So
events manager.
Yeah, I get to pick all the authors and set up all the events.
And mysteriously, you picked China Miéville.
I know, it's shocking. I can't imagine how that happened.
Yeah.
Especially to have him and Lev Grossman at the same time. That's, you know, it's very out of left field for me. It's not like I talk about that. Lev is going to interview him about Embassytown. So.
Okay. So Embassytown is the new book,
yes.
And so. Talk about Embassytown. Good luck.
Good luck. I know. I was writing up like a little thing for online. I was trying to encapsulate it because it's a very complex book, unshocking, you know, given our author. And I think I came up with something like space! Exclamation mark, aliens! Exclamation mark, linguistics! Exclamation mark, and that was my entire pitch for the book.
It is kind of the ultimate linguistics science fiction novel. I mean, which is a very strange pitch, but it's very pleasing, right?
It is. And I think one of the things that I like best about it is that it's, I mean, it works on all those levels that he normally works on, but I feel like it maintains the accessibility of Kraken or City in the City that the Perdido books don't quite have. They're not as accessible. They're so dense. They're so concept-rich, which is a good thing, but like it's harder to get into, especially if you're a new reader of his. So I feel like the people who've been with him for a long time are fine with that, but I feel like for newer readers, sometimes like, oh, it was really hard to get into, and I feel like Embassytown, just you go right in, and it really grabs you from the beginning.
Yeah,
I thought so.
I had almost the opposite reaction, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think it's probably one of his least accessible novels recently.
Really?
Yeah, I really do, and I find it strange thinking that from having read The City in the City, which I think also has a lot in common with this.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know what's going on for a period of time.
Right.
Which I enjoy about his novels.
Right.
They are very much about setting and about kind of immersing yourself in the world before you really realize there's even a plot taking place, right?
Right.
And I think from that perspective, this book is very strange. And I think it's strange just because like I tried to sit down like you did, and I looked through my book again.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what the aliens look like.
Right.
and I realized I had this idea of what they look like. I know they're kind of like insects, and they kind of look like coral, and they have wings.
They have wings.
And they have big bulbous bodies.
Right.
And they're kind of like stretchy skin, eye stalk things.
Right.
And they move like crabs, and like that's about all I know, and that's probably enough.
I feel like that's a lot.
It is a lot, but it's not the specific like description you get in other books.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It is a sense of what they look like, which I think is much more valuable than the specifics of what they look like. You know, other books you get like a height and a mass and some very,
how tall are they compared to humans?
Right. People are looking up and down. Instead, you get a sense of I think the Areki's presence in this book. How do you pitch this book? I don't know.
Yeah, I again, space, aliens, linguistics. No, it's I feel like it's a thriller with a philosophical back to it, because you have this whole sort of question about linguistics and like identity and truth telling and not truth telling and story and narrative. I mean, it's a book about how we tell stories.
We should talk about the world it's set in a little bit.
Right.
So it's set in an outpost world, I would say, called Areka. Arieka. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Yeah.
And it's kind of on the outer edge of something called the Immer, which is kind of like hyperspace, but not really.
Yeah.
And it's a conceptual space as much as it's some space that underlies our reality.
Right. And the main character, the sort of main character, is a space pilot, and so she grew up on the outpost, and then she leaves, and then she comes back, which is very uncommon, and then she has this odd relationship
the outpost city,
with the aliens.
The city on the outpost is called Embassytown, and that's the embassy where people called ambassadors basically interact with your
Areki?
Areki? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, but and I love the description of the Immer, which is what he calls the hyperspace kind of construct. because you never get a sense of what that's like either, because it's undescribable in our terms, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so he's doing that thing that he does that I love so much, which is, you know, this like little twists on things that are very common. So immersion, immer, right? It's an immersive experience. Again, very hard to describe, different for every person who goes through it. Although I feel like, not to knock it, but I feel like that's a pretty standard description of hyper or subspace from some other sci-fi that I've read. I mean, I don't feel like that's incredibly unusual. Like time warps, and you know, you have hallucinations or you don't have hallucinations. Like,
well, I thought what set this apart, maybe, I mean, I'm not big on hyperspace novels, but I thought what set it apart was the main character Abbas Benner Cho.
Yeah.
Like she's.
You're good at remembering names.
Well, I had to review all this stuff. Well, and of course when I read it, I'm like, oh, she's Korean, of course, right? I mean, like, okay, my wife's Korean. That makes sense. Everything's Korean now. Everything's about Korea. It used to be about Japan. Now it's all about Korea. Even China Miéville is now come on board that.
I didn't even consider that.
And so I was reading it, and I was struck by how she says that the immersers, like most people sleep through the immersion, or the process of going from one place to another in the immer. And she said that, like, basically the people who are immersers, who have that talent to stay awake and be functional and act as crew, they also have some kind of duty, which is ill-defined, where they have
kind
to
of like guide duty, right?
Well, but it's like they're part of the engine that drives the ship through it. Part of their conception of the journey helps the journey take place, which I thought was very cool.
It's really awesome. Yeah.
And so we should talk about the world a little bit. So these things called the hosts, the Areka.
Yeah. Areki. I think. Let's go with Areki. Yeah.
They have two mouths.
Right.
And when they talk, well, it kind of comes out slowly, but I think you have to talk about it to talk about this book.
Yeah.
They talk with both voices at once.
Right.
And humans come to this planet, which is on the edge of the immer, of the known immer space.
Right.
And they find them, and they quickly decode their language.
Right.
But these creatures, which they call the hosts, can't ever understand the humans. And the humans have machines that then reproduce the sounds perfectly, but they still can't understand them.
Right.
And then basically two humans try to talk at the same time, making different sounds.
Right.
And suddenly they can kind of talk.
Yeah, right. So the whole concept is that there has to be consciousness behind the words for the aliens to identify it, which is part of the. So the other thing about the aliens that's crazy, aside from the two mouths, is that they can't tell lies. They can only actually describe reality as they know it.
Right.
And so, and they eventually come to understand, through their interactions with humans, the idea of falsehoods, but they can't do it. And so a major subplot of the book is them trying to learn to lie. And it's actually a political movement for them, because it's so contrary to their way of life, it's contrary to their way of thinking, it's contrary to everything about them to say something like, even something as minimal as saying, like, you know, the sky is red as opposed to the sky is blue, or, you know, my hand is over here as opposed to my hand. They can't do it. They just can't do it.
Language is all about intention and what you know, right?
Yeah.
And what I love is, like, there's a festival of lies that Cho attends after she goes back to Embassytown, and the ambassadors are able to get up there, and the ambassadors are basically duplicate people whose thoughts are linked together. Yeah. So they have like two parts of a name, but they're one being. Right. And they've been created essentially, right?
Yeah.
They're
basically,
clones.
they're genetically
clones, right?
engineered. Yeah.
They're engineered to be able to talk to the hosts, which I love. And it's so bizarre because they try to look exactly alike, and they try to be one being, and they have to be to be able to talk. So they basically develop,
so that the aliens can understand.
Right, and so they're the ambassadors of what has become to be called Embassytown, and that festival of lies. They can basically get up, and the hosts are like, describe this thing, tell us a lie about it, and they just go like, that's blue.
Yeah, and everybody freezes.
It's not even there. Yeah, they just all these big crap like weird bulbous things. They're just completely losing their minds, but they're all completely entertained, and they try to do it, and they can't quite do it. Right. And then one of them learns how to lie, and that's very strange. And I thought, oh, here comes the plot, and then no,
it has nothing to do with that.
No.
Although it does actually, because it all comes back to that.
It does kind of, but you can't really talk about the plot, right?
No. I was gonna say, are we spoiling it? Like,
well, I don't think so. I'll put a warning on this, but I think the main plot really gets going. Like that's part of it. Like they're trying to learn to lie. Some of them are trying to culturally learn to lie. So they're kind of trying to do things with their language that it's not required to do. Right. Then there's another plot about the language, which is that Cho herself, when she was a child, was a simile, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what is her simile? Like she's not just a simile.
She's the girl who ate what was given to her.
Who was in the dark. But it's weird.
The girl
who was in pain in the dark.
Right.
Who was in a place where dinner was not served for a long time. but who ate what was given to her, something like that, right?
Yeah, there's variations, right? I mean, there's like the big long one, and then it gets condensed.
And so when the hosts basically have to, when they create a simile, like similes, our similes are all based on comparisons that we know aren't true, but theirs can't be. It's got to be on something that's true.
Right.
So they needed a girl who ate what was given to her to be able to use that simile in some kind of meaningful, symbolic way.
Yeah. And then there's the whole club of people who are, I'm a metaphor, I'm an example, I'm a simile. Like
in the host's language,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Which is just called language with a capital L, right?
Or speak it like a host. I thought that phrase was so interesting. Like humans end up saying, like, I speak it like a host. Like, I'm totally telling you the truth. I'm not, I can't lie. I speak it like a host. I love that. I thought that was so interesting.
I thought the weird thing was like the perversion, the sexual perversion kind of thing. Not quite perversion, but they're like one being. So like when they have a partner, right?
The ambassadors.
Yeah, when the ambassadors have like there's an ambassador named Cal Vin. One's Cal, one's Vin.
Yeah.
And like they're supposed to have the same thoughts, but one kind of likes Cho more than the other one.
And she gets it mixed up. In the moment that it matters, she gets it wrong.
It's a very creepy situation she's trying to convey, but it's also kind of perverse from a straightforward. It's like a threesome. It's an ongoing threesome.
I don't know whether like perverse is the word.
Well, I don't mean perverse in a bad way.
It's unconventional.
It's unconventional. Well, perverse means unconventional, doesn't it? I mean, that means
it usually has a negative connotation.
I don't mean. Believe me, perverse is not bad to me. But then I think the major plot point starts when an ambassador arrives from Bremer.
Yes.
Bremer?
Sure.
Which is the place that Embassytown is a colony of, basically.
Yes, right.
And instead of being two clones.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I forget names almost immediately. I'm terrible at names.
Well, this ambassador is basically two men who are not clones.
Right.
But they speak with one mind, and they're linked together.
Yes.
And when they speak, the hosts react very strangely, and basically this ambassador's voice is like a drug to them, and the addiction spreads across the planet, and that begins the very basic plot point.
Yeah, that's pretty. But it doesn't start until halfway through the book. That plot line doesn't start. Yeah. Mostly the first half you spend getting to know Avis or Avis, however you want to say it, and sort of like her journey. Ezra
is the name of the ambassador.
Ezra, yeah, that's right. Ezra, yes. So yeah, and she becomes such a central character later on in a very active way. But I feel like, I guess maybe I can see what you mean. Like the first half of the book is a little bit, there's not a whole lot of straightforward plot. It's a lot of setup. It's a lot of kind of acclimating you to the universe.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful the way it unfolds. And I do worry that like by explaining anything about it, you kind of give away some part of it. But I think that's true of a lot of good books. But you still have to have a pitch, right? If somebody's interested in a pitch, you have to have a pitch. And so, like linguistics, like if you're a linguistics guy, here's the book on linguistics that you'll enjoy.
If you're an aliens guy, here's the book on aliens.
Yeah, world building and just like
exactly.
And their technology is so strange. Like,
they have living technology. So like your refrigerator is an actual creature, and your house is a living creature, and the parasites are a functional part of the whole technology.
And your power cells, are a creature, and the food that the hosts manufacture and trade with Embassytown, like all the food that comes in like a giant intestine into the city. Apparently, it's like everything is made and
the farms are actually big creatures that the other creatures live on or in, and they move, and
so they have this inexplicable technology to these people, but they don't have like intergalactic travel, and they have no knowledge of alien races. They can't even conceive of speaking to alien races because language is what it is to them.
Right.
Like
translation doesn't work for them.
So when you get to meet him, what are you gonna say to him? Have you been rehearsing anything?
This is why we're having Lev Grossman do the interview. Initially, my coworker and I were like, one of us will do it, and then we're like, no, one of us cannot do it. Like we'll just not be able to speak normally. So I'm pretty good at internalizing my crazy, especially in a professional context. Like if it's at like the very first time we met, I was in line, and like all I was doing was being a fan, and so it was a little bit. It's more acceptable to be crazy in that scenario. Whereas like this will be for my job, and there will be like I will have responsibilities involved in this event. So I will probably be very professional. But I will tell you that when I pitched this and like had tried to get the event with his publicist, I let all of the crazy hang out. I don't know if you know this, but I am publicly insane about China Miéville on the YouTubes.